So some of you may be interested in finding out, where does the timing of Justice League fit into the schematic of the DCEU? As you know, the DCEU started with Man of Steel, the first of 3 movies. And out there's circling all kinds of rumors circulating that, Zack Snyder was just interested in making a trilogy. He wasn't interested in having extended universe, and all kinds of crazy stuff people are saying. The truth be told, there is an extended universe. There is a universe out there, and it's been discussed at length by Charles Rowan, Zack Snyder, etc. Also, the DCEU is actually a name that Zack Snyder mentioned, as well as a number of actors in the DCEU have mentioned it as the DC Extended Universe. And I have cited in my videos that this is actually a universe. It's not about Zack Snyder getting a trilogy and then jump-starting other characters, but it was actually extending a universe, a greater world. And we saw this greater world in the trilogy, and we also saw some of it also in Suicide Squad as well as Wonder Woman. And it's the same world, which is basically almost analogous to our world that we're seeing on the screen, and how it operates and everything is like our world. But it jump-started with Man of Steel. Now, Batman v Superman came at the heels of Man of Steel. In fact, it picked up at the end of Man of Steel, where Superman was actually fighting General Zod. And so there wasn't really much of a lapse time, except to say that fast forward a couple months later, 18 months to be precise, and then we catch up on Batman and what he's doing, and that's where the rest of the movie goes. But as we saw, the beginning of the movie begins with Batman, and also it picks up in Metropolis, and it shows Batman being witness to that. So this is an immediate sequel to Man of Steel. The timelines overlap. So when you were watching it, Superman fighting General Zod and his invasion forces, and they were using the world engine on the world to terraform it, Batman v Superman literally picks up at that point, seeing it from our perspective through the eyes of Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. Now, where it gets a little bit murky is where people are saying, well, what happened with Suicide Squad? Where does Suicide Squad fall into this equation? Because Suicide Squad happens after the events of Batman v Superman, after Superman has fought Doomsday, and we pick up and see that it is a connective tissue between Superman's death in the beginning sequence where we hear "Remember," and the guy turns the jersey and you see hope, and you can see that it recaps in our minds, as Amanda Waller narrates, Superman's death. Now, how long after his death Suicide Squad happens? I would assume it was a couple days after his death. Why I say this is because Suicide Squad has a world-ending event. It is not on a world scale yet, but it's a world-ending event that happens covertly, right? And there's a co-op that is taken, the Suicide Squad is taken into position to do this co-op to try and stop this event. Now, what's interesting is that there was a terrorist event happening in Central City, which is Flash's city. And this terror event is why the Suicide Squad was implemented, which was Enchantress. But Enchantress instead turns against everything, and we have this world cataclysmic event that could happen as she tries to take out special forces around the world, intelligence agencies. Now, this is a world-ending event, but this happens a little before Justice League happens. Okay, how do we know this? Because we see Bruce Wayne at the end of Suicide Squad talking to Amanda Waller about shutting down the Suicide Squad because he's up to date on what happened. Though the entire world doesn't know about it, just Central City has an idea of what happened because they had to evacuate the place, even though they don't know the details. And the government knows what happened. Interestingly enough, the world doesn't really know what happened there. Justice League happens after that. So what we notice is Justice League, though it doesn't mention anything about Suicide Squad, and I thought this was interesting for everybody on board to know, even though they don't know the events of Suicide Squad, what happened, we saw the Flash in that Suicide Squad movie in a flashback, catching Captain Boomerang, and we saw Batman. even though he was also in a flashback many years before Superman died, catching the Joker and, well, no, he caught Harley Quinn, sorry, and Deadshot. But the interesting thing about this is the events of the Suicide Squad seem to happen sooner than Justice League. So immediately after the events of the death of Superman, after his burial, Amanda Waller immediately jumps on the dime to start this Suicide Squad. And then they have a Suicide Squad mission in Central City that is commissioned by the government of the world. Okay? Now, right after that, not but maybe a couple months after, we have the Suicide Squad happening. We have the Justice League beginning to become assembled. But in the meantime, while all of this time is transpiring, the world is becoming more hopeless and divided. There are still people who have hope in the world, but it's hopeless and divided. Now, must be mentioned, however, when Bruce Wayne is talking to Diana at Superman's funeral, that the events that kick in the Justice League are going into motion. Those cogwheels are going into motion via Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is doing his homework on this invasion that he is expected to see happen. So when people ask what happened in Suicide Squad, why didn't we see the Flash? Why didn't we see Wonder Woman? Why didn't we see Batman? Right? What were they doing? Well, the Flash, though he was in Central City, he was moving around, as we see. He was doing arbitrary acts of heroism. Okay, but for the most part, he was occupied with trying to liberate his father, and he was working hard. He would not have known about this covert operation that happened in Central City, even though Central City had to be evacuated at a certain point in time. But he was constantly moving around. Now, when it comes to Batman, he was busy recruiting the team, as we realize. And when he found out and had a sniff of what happened in Central City, because his ears would be to the ground, he went and he gathered more information from Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller knowing who he is. Wonder Woman was quite in Europe, so what happening in Central City she was not aware of. And Aquaman, he's way in the North Pole. He's away from mankind, period. Okay? So, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, none of these people, maybe the most important one would have been the Flash, and probably he wasn't in that part of Central City that was under attack that people evacuated. He might have heard about it, but he probably was too busy doing what he was doing. Nonetheless, this is important to see that these events in Suicide Squad happened just maybe a couple moments before. But in the meantime, while these events are happening, Bruce Wayne is busy occupied trying to get more information of these metahumans to pull together this team. Okay, that's what he and Alfred been doing. And apparently, he had been preoccupied with parademons in Gotham. And he finally met one. They were trying to attract one, and he finally met one. They were looking at all the sightings of the parademons. So they were focused on this invasion that was happening. Now, where does Wonder Woman fit into this equation? Well, Wonder Woman is not in the order of all these films. Wonder Woman actually happens before Man of Steel. So really, this movie here is a backstory to give you some frame of reference for who Wonder Woman is for Justice League. And I thought it was brilliantly done in the sense that it ties into Justice League, it ties into what Wonder Woman's pledge is, and it makes sense of what she says at the end of Batman v Superman, and it connects it to what she says and does in Justice League. Okay? And so it's just really awesome how that fits together nicely. So she's not really Wonder Woman. The Wonder Woman movie is not in the order of the other movies. And what I like about the DCEU, what I like about these movies is they're not going your typical traditional way, trying to introduce you to a character, then have a movie. Because it is able to show the progression of these characters and their character development, and also so many other wonderful things about them through your interest of the characters. These characters are really interesting. And I thought Zack Snyder did absolute service to these characters, culminating in this Justice League movie, in which I thoroughly enjoyed, and there's so much to it. So let me give you the sequence of events in the correct order they begin. The beginning of Justice, Wonder Woman. Now, she goes into sort of covert operations. She's not trying to stand before the world. So the first metahuman the world really fully acknowledges and sees is Superman, who bursts on the scene. Wonder Woman is not letting herself be known to the world like that. Okay? She's only doing when she's needed, but she basically has walked away from the world of man in terms of being a figure there that they can see and be visible. Alright? So Man of Steel comes, and Kal-El is thrust into the spotlight after he's prepared and he knows his mission. Well, not quite prepared and knows his mission, but he's thrust into the spotlight because of Zod. Zod is forcing the world to release Superman. Okay? And this is why he presents himself to the world. He submits himself to the world. He's submitting himself to mankind, not to Zod. You know, and so as a result of that, he gives himself over to General Zod. Alright, and then after that we have Batman v Superman, which is an immediate sequel to Man of Steel. And after that, not but a couple days after, I believe, Amanda Waller starts to pitch the Suicide Squad. They go on their first mission probably a couple months after. So it's possible that the Suicide Squad was on this mission, and then right after that, Bruce Wayne comes and speaks with Amanda Waller, and she gives him more information on the metahumans so he can get more data. And you will notice people say Bruce Wayne's not a detective or Batman's not a detective in this movie. In BVS all the way to Justice League and the end, Batman has operated as a detective. He's constantly pulling together information. He's constantly assessing with Alfred what is the threat. And then the final movie that really caps off everything so far is Justice League. Now, there are a lot of questions we can ask about Justice League, and a lot of questions concerning the Suicide Squad and so many other elements here, because now we have this interesting future. The future looks bright for the DCEU in terms of content and how they've set up things, because now we have these players in our hands. We have the Suicide Squad with Amanda Waller. We know that Lex Luthor is setting up what we call the Legion of Doom or Injustice League. It doesn't matter what it's called. It's basically the same players. We know that there is the Justice League is now formed, and they're looking for more members. And we know that the Hall of Justice is coming up, and we're seeing the inception of everything. So this is awesome. So we have 3 separate players in the game. One of the players is going to be led by Amanda Waller, who is not going to shut down the Suicide Squad, and she will have the backing of the government. Alright? The other player is going to be the heroes that are formed in Justice League. And then finally, we're going to have a league of basically villainous people who are geared to just try and resist this Justice League in either called the Legion of Doom or the Injustice League, whatever they call themselves. Or the Secret Society. We'll see what they are called. But at the end of the day, Lex Luthor will basically rule that they're another set of players. So it's very exciting what's in the future. Now, one person was saying that if they go with this Injustice League or this Legion of Doom, that means there will be no Darkseid. And that's not true either. Because for those people who know their comic book lore, Darkseid has been in the Injustice League. He has been a member of the Injustice League. So if you really were paying attention, you would realize that. So Darkseid, this can still lead to Darkseid. Alright, but they have a multiple different ways and variations of pursuing the story. So it's very important for you people who really are fans of this movie to keep on expressing your love for it, because as you can see, I'm delving into all kinds of things here, and this thing has almost an innumerable supply of information for me to share with you guys, and I can't really stop sharing it. There's just so much to it, and because there's so much lore in these movies, it's really fascinating to share. But I wanted to just say this, that the future of these movies and the future of these stories, there are innumerable stories to tell. And remember, we can have characters such as Plastic Man, we could have characters such as Captain Atom, that could enter into this equation. Some fascinating characters like I forgot what the guy says, the heat is on. I forgot what his name is. You guys tell me what his name is, you DC fans. I mean, we got innumerable characters of all kinds of spectrums. From we have Catwoman still hasn't entered this universe. We haven't seen Catwoman or Nightwing, the Teen Titans. I mean, you name it. There are characters galore to show in the DC universe. The Red Lantern Corps, the Green Lantern Corps, etc. So let's look forward to the possibilities. But the only way that's going to happen, guys, is if this thing makes bank at the box office. It has to make a profit. And so there's a lot of great things that are in store, but they will be shut down. They will be shut down if this movie doesn't do well. So let's stay focused now on ensuring this movie does well. Make sure it crosses $1 billion, not with home release, but literally in theaters. Right now, this is the status. The movie, it's not doing well. It's doing less well than every other DCEU movie, and its budget is huge. So what we need to do as fans is very simple. Speak good things about this movie. Post it up on your social media. If these videos can help you and you want me to argue certain arguments for you, suggest certain things for me so I will argue it in the video. So you can just put the video there. You don't have to waste your time debating with anybody. Put the videos there for people to see and move on. My job will be to educate people on what Justice League is, how it fits into the bigger scheme of things in the DCEU, and also set straight some of the myths and separate truth from error. I am willing to talk about these things. I'm willing to go deeply into these characters. I'm willing to show people the plot of this movie, show how deep this movie really is, that the essential Zack Snyder elements are there. I am willing to do all of that hard work because I do a lot of research. So you can use my videos. Join the group that's on Facebook. It's called Justice League Unite. We started off with 3 members. We now have 21. We want to get to 100 by Friday. We want to get to 1,000 by next week. And we want to get to about 200,000 by the following week. And then we want to get to 1 million. Okay? The idea behind it is simple. If people keep on speaking good things and positive things and inspiring things, hope will grow and grow and grow. And just like in the movie, in spite of the darkness around us, the hope will bring the light that will help us to be liberated and free. And this movie has a lot to offer. So this is not just your usual comic book movie from start to finish. I am sure, I'm not even trying to debate this. I am sure that Zack Snyder, if he gets to get money and finance and finish off his version of this movie, his uncollaborated cut of this movie with Junkie XL, I'm sure that he will also be able to more clearly show some other things that he wanted to show in the movie, because I'm sure it would be a little longer and so on. But in essence, this movie is good as it is. I'm sure Zack Snyder would put off a masterpiece if he's allowed to do what he has to do. I saw BVS. I know, the ultimate cut. I know what it is, you know. But at the end of the day, what we have is more than sufficient to spark us on and to spark this movement. And all I'm saying is, with the value that is there, we need to let it happen, let it come to light. I don't think the WB did a wrong thing by allowing a fusion of different styles and even having some of the Marvel music in there, because it's all about coming together at the end of the day. And I appreciate this version for what it is. And I think it means more, believe it or not, than the version that Zack Snyder will bring, because it's a coming together of opposing sides, people on different aisles. Joss Whedon from Marvel, Zack Snyder from DC. DC is the only one to do this. And for some reason, whether or not Warner Brothers bumbled or stumbled, this movie means more to me because of how it was made and everything than if Zack Snyder makes his finished cut, which will be a masterpiece, no doubt about it. If this movie will mean more to me because it's a coming together, it truly represents exactly what its message is, and it's powerful because of that. And so there's no way me as a DCEU fan to his core believing in these movies, unless this movie was a bunch of crap. Like I said, if this movie came out like Thor Ragnarok, or it came out like even Avengers, I would have hated this movie, and it would have deserved to get it to flop off the bat. I wasn't going to go watch it again. But this movie is not that kind of movie. Okay? Yes, WB has been trying to head in that direction. Jeff Johns has been egging them on to move in that direction. But at the end of the day, the truth be told, this collaboration here is something special. This doesn't happen every day. I am sorry that Joss Whedon is getting the flack for his hard work on this movie. I know that there are some people who are passionate working with Joss Whedon, who were working with Zack Snyder, who wanted Joss Whedon to keep a lot of things in the movie, but Joss Whedon had to cut out certain things. It's just what it is. They needed a 2-hour time frame. I thought he did an excellent job of capturing what Zack was trying to say in this movie because it spoke to me. For those of you, John King, you wanted to know about symmetry and those things, I'll actually either when I can get in contact with you on Facebook, you have to unblock me. You blocked me on Facebook, and that was because of some atheists. We are having an atheist God argument. Trust me, we're deeper than that, John. We need to stay close to each other because we believe in the same things, more or less. There are other things we differ on, but that doesn't mean we stop communicating. So if you unblock me on Facebook, bro, we can keep on talking. People can come from different, and this is the beauty of this movie. This is what it's telling us. We need to be bigger than this. Yes, this person has their own way of living. I have my own way of living. All right? We probably will argue with each other till blue in the face, and we won't convince each other on that. So what we work together on are the things we can agree on. That's coming together. And if you look at the Justice League, Aquaman didn't want nothing to do with Batman. Okay? Cyborg, Wonder Woman was trying to speak to his emotions, his heart, and he left her in the dust. All right? And my point being, even Superman, when he was brought back, was like, what's your problem, Batman? And he was ready to just squash Batman for that, you know. So my point being that we can have differences, but it doesn't mean if we don't communicate, stick to each other, something from me rubs off on you, something from you rubs off on me. And also, in time, we come to work together. That's the point behind the whole thing. And this movie is more about humanity. It's a humanistic film, even though it does have, and what resonates with me, with Zack Snyder so heavily, is his Christocentric themes. I really appreciate him for his Christocentric themes. I don't know if he's a Christian, just like how people don't know if Dostoevsky was a Christian, but he really was. But I can say that Zack Snyder spoke to me, and that's why I'm on board with this DCEU, and I rock with them hard. You know what I'm saying? Because I realize they have something different, something special, something that's translatable to real life. And that is always awesome when you can find a comic book movie that actually says something, actually means something. And so I can't give up on Justice League, guys. I can't do it. Just can't do it. This movie has to do well. It's got too good a message. And I watched another good movie this year in Blade Runner 2049 flop at the box office. And I'm saying this ain't happening for Justice League. Not if I'm there. I'm going to go down with a fight. I'm going to fight to make sure this movie makes it. So guys, you'll see me doing box office reports. I don't expect the box office to change suddenly overnight. We're still too small in number. Like Batman would say, not enough. And Bruce Wayne would say, we are not enough. We're not enough yet to make that big change. But we're starting to already effect a change. We're starting to make people think. I've seen people who didn't like this movie. Thanks to you, Dave Ethan. People who don't like this movie, they're turning and changing their minds and going back and watching it. The people who are buying into the poison, some of them are starting to change their minds already. We have to work harder. We have to work faster. We have to work relentlessly. And it will happen. But we have to keep hoping and we have to keep on working. It's only the second week that went by. This is the second week of this movie's release. So it's really important, guys. We had the second weekend. The box office drop was not bad. It was reasonable. But this second week here is really, really rocky because of Coco and all of those other things. And we got to give people a reason to want to go back and see this movie. And especially the people who usually support these movies, we need them on board with us. We need the Marvel fans. We need the DC fans. There's a lot of negativity out there. But if you really spark your light, and that's why I say, don't look for immediate results. Just keep on shining. Don't worry about what's happening around you. Just keep on shining. They'll come to the light. Because people can't see in darkness. But when light is there, they can see. So you just be that beacon of light out there. And it will happen. It will happen. I was part of that team that made BVS successful. I was part of the team that made Suicide Squad successful at the box office. I was part of that team that made Wonder Woman the success it is today. You were part of that team. We make these films what they are. So let's make this film get past $1 billion. It's not impossible. It's very difficult, but it's not impossible. Keep on believing. Keep on hoping. Keep on pressing. I want you collectively to understand your power. This film was for that, to empower you. I'm glad Zack Snyder made this film. I'm glad Joss Whedon helped him and did not cloud that message of you make a difference. I'm glad Patty Jenkins made that Wonder Woman film, because it's you. You have that power. And that's what you have to keep on understanding. And all these videos we're making online right now, people are watching them. People of big influence are watching them because they watch everything. They get their eyes on everything and they watch everything. You make a difference. Your little comments online, you make a huge difference. And the sooner you realize you really do count, the sooner you realize that you make a difference, now what do you do with that power? Because all of us have power, guys. But the power we have, are we going to use it like Steppenwolf to destroy things? Or are we going to use that power to inspire, to give hope? That is the difference, guys, between the people tearing down this movie right now and the people who want to see it prosper. If you see virtue in something, and I'll talk about the word virtue. I'm a Christian. So there's a lot of Christocentric themes I constantly put in front of your face when you're not even aware I'm talking about these things. But I try to say them in a relatable term instead of going like the usual Christocentric people, the usual religious people, and saying it in another language, which you may not understand or relate to. So when I tell you guys about virtue, and why I look for virtue in movies, it's because I'm a Christian. And one of the things a Christian really desires in their heart is to show love. And if people feel that, not what I say, but what I do, if they feel the love that I show, then that's what matters. I'm not saying that I'm going to be a perfect person. And none of these heroes that we saw on the screen were perfect people. They were like you and me, relatable. That's what made Superman so relatable so far. And in his journey, even with this fantastic power and how he was behaving in Justice League, he started off shaky again. He started off, it looked like he was going to turn evil. He was going to kill Batman. And the point is, we accepted him because of his power. And we accepted that he actually was that hope that Batman was pushing in the whole movie. So, you guys got to understand that you have incredible power. Don't let what is happening around you fool you. You just keep on doing that little thing you do every day. Share something positive every day. A beacon of hope. It's not fake hope. And yes, remember always, hope is not something that guarantees, especially an immediate positive outcome. Sometimes things get worse long before they get better. We talk about many, many years. Dostoevsky, after his first novel, which he did well in, 13 years later, after being in exile, etc., he had his second good novel. He was being condemned for 13 years, folks. What I'm trying to say to you is, the only time your light will stop shining is when you give up hope. And a hopeless person turns to fear and hate. I'll tell you why people commit suicide. They commit suicide because they have given up hope. They get desperate. And then they don't know why they need to live anymore. When you move from a living human being to a battery, a cell, just a robot going through daily routines to get by. When you move from who you are, a living human being, to that, you've already died. There are many people who just mope around like sheep. They have no mind of their own. They're no longer alive. And what you're hearing in the media is a bunch of dead people trying to get life. And they mope around looking for every negative thing because they don't remember what it is to be positive anymore. And they hate what they don't understand. And all the disgruntled fans with this movie are disgruntled because they can't see virtue anymore. And they're looking to whine and complain because they don't feel satisfied with their own lives. Their lives have fallen short. They're not alive anymore. They don't feel empowered anymore. They only see gloom and doom. They've given up. But you are different. You see. You're waking up. You're coming back from the dead. You are resurrecting. If this movie spoke to you, it's because you were dead. But now you're becoming alive. And a living person with hope is a dangerous person. You have wielded an incredible power. And everyone will try to shut you up. Everyone. They tried to shut up Zack Snyder. The critics. Up to this day, if you go and you Google anything about Justice League right now, all you will see is negative because these people are dead. They do not want hope. They do not want people speaking on the world they're in. They're trying to clog their ears and they're yelling and squealing and bawling because they don't want to face the reality of facing themselves in the mirror and their sad lives. They want candy. He's giving them food, good food, so they could change. And people don't want to change. They like being comfortable in their comfort zone. So I sit down, I get fat, I fill my mouth with popcorn and candy, and I go into the cinema to escape the world, to be entertained. And Zack Snyder will not give you that. He won't give you that. Like the gladiator in Gladiator, he'll say, "Are you not entertained?" And I love him for it. It's time we wake up, we man up, and we face the world. Stand with me. Join the league. And let's unite. And let's send a message to the world. Let's send a message to Warner Brothers too. You saw the early reaction, Warner Brothers, to your movie. Now we the fans are going to bring it to the forefront. But don't take it as your accomplishment when it happens. No, we the fans made this happen. So the next time you mess around with another director, understand, if your movie comes out subpar, we the fans will flex our muscles. It's up to us, the fans. We make or break a movie. We have the power. And even when the fans are divided, and some decide to believe in hearsay, we the fans, the ones who love the movie, make it or break it. We must be vocal. We must speak up about our love for something. If you love something, you're not going to just let it go. You're not going to just let it die. We love this movie. We're not going to let it die. So, when you as fans stand up and show your support for a movie even more than the other people who are trying to tear it down, because it's easy to tear down something, it's hard to build something up. And we're going to build this movie up. And when we do it, guys, I want you to understand you empower yourself. Because if you could do this, you can do other things in the world and make a change and a difference. We're seeing the Me Too movement. We saw Black Lives Matter movement. These things shook up the world. And we can shake up the world. I saw a movement by some young children, not older than 15 years of age, revolutionizing the world. Children finding cheap ways to make computers supply water to people in countries where they can't get water properly. So many good things happening out here. We have heroes projects all over the world and all over the country. Guys, that is the Justice League. You have the power to do so many things. Don't ever feel you're powerless. But you must know how to organize yourself and amass yourself. And then do simple things. A simple message makes a big difference. You have platforms that are powerful. Social media is the most powerful thing. You don't have to go to different countries anymore. All you have to do is make one little post on social media. So, guys, let's unite. Let's make this a success. You guys have a great one.